2023 is going to finish up as the worst year for corporate bankruptcies since the end of the global financial crisis. This year has also claimed the two biggest bankruptcies in American history that didn't occur during the GFC. And if that's got you feeling nervous, don't worry. According to numbers, 2024 is going to be much worse.
A rough week for the banking industry.
The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
The second biggest bank collapse in U.S. history.
Mutual, the biggest bank failure in American history.
In the end, no amount of money could make the business model work.
The home goods retailer famous for those big blue 20% off coupons is closing its doors for good.
We begin our report with the abrupt closures of 3 banks in a matter of days.
We turn now to the end of an era, another popular retailer going out of business, Bed Bath & Beyond.
According to data from Standard & Poor's, corporate bankruptcies in the major companies they track were up over 200% in the first half of 2023. High-profile companies like WeWork, Vice Media, and Bed Bath & Beyond all went under due to a combination of poor management, changing consumer preferences, high interest rates, and bad market conditions. But what does this even mean? Even though these companies went bankrupt, Vice is still making videos. You can still rent an office from WeWork, and Bed Bath & Beyond is still selling overpriced laundry hampers. Bankruptcies aren't what they used to be anymore. And now, instead of being a corporate equivalent of game over, it's just another business strategy, which is just one of 4 reasons why it's become so popular. Now, you all know I hate videos from supposed experts with wide open mouths peddling some doomer bullshit. But the other 3 reasons why bankruptcies are on the rise are honestly worrying. And they also show why business leaders just don't take it seriously anymore. The first reason that bankruptcies are booming is because of a new investing strategy that rewards taking on as much risk as possible. Private equity is a broad classification of investing that just means putting money into companies that are not publicly listed on any securities exchange. Venture capitalists who invest in early startups are a type of private equity. All of the deals you watch get made on Shark Tank are private equity deals. If you give your family members a few $1,000s to get their Etsy store going in exchange for a cut of half their future profits, you are technically a private equity investor. So make sure you slap that on your LinkedIn profile. The private equity where the real money is, though, is the buyout funds. These are firms that raise billions of dollars from college endowments, retirement funds, and wealthy investors to buy entire companies. Their investment strategy is that the smart people running these funds can use their business experience to make improvements in the companies they buy to cut down on costs and increase sales. Their real investment strategy, however, is, as the great Benjamin would say, getting absolutely jacked to the tits on debt that they don't have to take responsibility for. Here's how that works. Let's say you are a partner at a private equity firm that's just been given $1 billion to invest. You go out and find a company that has potential but needs your business skills to properly turn it around. Let's call it playing things are us. You use your $1 billion to buy the company, and as the new owner, you hire a new CEO who you trust to do exactly what you tell them to do. Their first job as CEO is to go out and get a loan from a bank or other investors for as much money as they possibly can on Play Things Are Us behalf. If the company is making a profit and is valued at $1 billion, the company should be able to borrow about $700 million. Now, you can tell your CEO to do one of 2 things with that money. The first option is to tell them to reinvest it into the business by advertising, open more locations, or building out online capacity. Your second option is to get them to just take the $700 million and pay it out to you as the company owner. If you decided on the second option, you can then use that money to go and buy another company and repeat it all over again. This is called a leveraged buyout. Private equity investors try to make this sound more complicated than it is, so they can charge their investors big fees. But it's really the same as real estate investors using cash to refinance or buy another rental property, just with 2 small differences. The first difference is that instead of buying real estate, they are buying entire companies. And the second difference is that unlike a mortgage, if the money borrowed by Playing Things Are Us can't be paid back, the private equity firm is not responsible for that debt. For you, as a private equity investor, this makes getting your appointed CEOs to take out as much debt as they possibly can a great investing strategy. If you can turn the businesses around, you can 4 or 5x your investment very quickly. And even if the businesses do end up getting crushed by their debt, you only lose 20 to 30% of your investors' money. Because this investment strategy could generate high returns while very effectively managing risk, thousands of household name companies have been bought up using leveraged buyouts while interest rates were low. Now, the rates on prime commercial debt have tripled. These companies that have been saddled with trillions of dollars worth of debt can no longer make their repayments. But even though that is going to hurt lenders and employees, for the private equity firms that created this situation, it's going to be an amazing profit opportunity because you'll never believe it. They can use these bankruptcies to make even more money. So it's time to learn how money works to find out what's really behind the bankruptcy boom. This week's lesson is sponsored by Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever, delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Are you looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays that don't skip on flavor? Try delicious, dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. Or need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel best during the holidays? Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Treat yourself to high-quality, delicious meals over the holidays. Choose from over 35 chef-curated meals every week that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences. Whether it's calorie smart, vegan or veggie, Protein Plus, and more wholesome options. A couple summers ago, I was using Factor as a way to control how much I ate, and thanks to their healthy, fresh meals, I was able to cut down my weight by 20 pounds in 3 months. New Year's is coming up, so start it right with a calorie-conscious meal plan from Factor. I recommend Factor to anyone who wants to eat healthier but wants to avoid wasting time prepping every meal. Head over to factor75.com or click the link in the description and use code HOWMONEYWORKS50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Most corporate bankruptcies in America and around the world are not happening to big companies that are household names. According to consolidated data from bankruptcy filings collected by Bloomberg, the biggest increase has come from small to medium enterprises closing down for good. Small businesses are always risky to operate, but the kind of companies that are actually going bankrupt might surprise you. The Small Business Association of America defines a small business as any company with revenue ranging from $1 million to over $40 million, and by employment from 100 to over 1,500 employees. Some of the small businesses going bankrupt are actually very big, and according to the US Census Bureau, these companies provide jobs to nearly half of all working Americans. According to the same data, big companies like Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon, WeWork, and Walmart only employ 23% of Americans. Even though each bankruptcy of a small business is going to have less effect than the bankruptcy of a major company, they are collectively larger and more important. The only reason nobody seems more panicked about it is because of the second reason bankruptcies are booming. It's overdue. In 2021 and 2022, company bankruptcies fell to an all-time low even though market conditions were incredibly challenging. Almost no companies were failing no matter how terribly they were run, because government programs like the Paycheck Protection Loans and rock-bottom interest rates meant that it was easy for companies to stay open by borrowing to cover expenses. Without these conditions, these companies would have failed a long time ago, which is why you'll hear them called zombie companies. These loans need to be paid back, and they are coming with a much higher interest payment. Small business loans are typically given on adjustable rates, unlike fixed-rate mortgages, so a business's interest payment can change at any time to match market lending rates. Adjustable rates on mortgages are very common in other countries, so repayments are hurting people's budgets there as well. But in America, thanks to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we don't have to worry about that, for now. Our companies are not so lucky though. According to investment rating agency Moody's, $1.87 trillion of corporate debt that is considered junk quality is expiring between 2024 and 2028. That signifies a 27% jump from the $1.47 trillion recorded in last year's study for 2023 to 2027. Moody's does not track Paycheck Protection Program loans, so this figure does not include the $953 billion in additional loans that were given to companies to cover wages. According to public records compiled by CBS, $757 billion of those loans were forgiven. The businesses may be off the hook for these repayments, but they can no longer rely on them either. Most of this junk debt is held by the small companies that a lot of you watching this video right now work for. As this debt comes due, more companies are being forced into bankruptcy because they do not have enough cash to make their payments. That's a serious problem for you, the employee. But the third reason that bankruptcies are booming is because for companies, bankruptcy isn't always the end. It can be a whole new beginning. The differences between personal bankruptcies and corporate bankruptcies causes one of the most infuriating situations in business. Major corporate CEOs and executives regularly get paid millions of dollars after running their companies into bankruptcy, getting paid ahead of the shareholders, creditors, and even employees they screwed over with their poor management. This is technically illegal, but it still happens all the time. To know how the this could possibly happen, you need to know that not all bankruptcies are created equal. For companies, there are two types of bankruptcy that you should know about, Chapter 7 and Chapter 11, the convenience store duo if you will. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is good old-fashioned monopoly-style game-over bankruptcy. Operations stop and the company's assets are liquidated to pay back stakeholders in order of priority. Who gets money first in America is determined by the US Bankruptcy Code, and it goes in order from secure creditors, who are usually banks that give loans against secured things like property or equipment, priority creditors like clients who held money with the company on account or employees. Then unsecured debt holders are paid. And if there's any money left over after that, it gets split up between shareholders. If there are two classes of shares like there are in companies such as Berkshire Hathaway and Meta, then money is given to non-voting preferred shareholders first. This payment order is often called a waterfall or liquidity overflow, because until the very top of the priority creditors are fully repaid, not a cent is given to the next person in line. But there's an exception to this, and that's the CEOs that got the company into the mess in the first place. Companies regularly pay their CEOs and top executives millions of dollars to guide the company through the liquidation process, because a lot more value can be obtained for stakeholders if senior management can keep things operational until they are sold. If you were the CEO of a pharmaceutical company and you drove your business into the ground, you can't just turn off the lights and leave the keys to the auctioneers. Things like medical research and labs are only worth anything to potential buyers if they can be properly handed over. But as a ruthless corporate tyrant, you're going to want to know what's in it for you. A company going bankrupt might not even be able to pay your salary since you are second in line as an employee. But because you can help people get their money back, they might make you a deal. A one-time payment to stick around until everything is finished. If companies didn't do this, their CEOs would usually quit and start looking for a new job as soon as they could. The most infamous example of this was Enron, which was a huge corporate bankruptcy caused by the fraudulent actions of the executives that were going to be paid millions of dollars to see the company through the bankruptcy they caused. Following that, Congress passed legislation aimed at preventing companies from paying retention bonuses to executives. According to Robert Jackson, an associate professor at Columbia Law School at Columbia University, they left a loophole in the law though. Executives can be paid performance-based incentives for doing a good job with the bankruptcy they caused, which is different enough from a retention bonus to technically be legal. This loophole is even more important for the other type of bankruptcy, which is Chapter 11. This type of bankruptcy gives the company a court-appointed administrator that works with the company executives to rearrange finances and operations to try and pay back as much of the debt as possible while maintaining the good parts of the business so that they can keep making money to pay back creditors. This is why, even though Vice is in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it's still making videos, because that's a revenue center for their business. Chapter 11s are booming because now is the perfect time to renegotiate debt because lenders would rather have something than nothing, and the last thing they want is a panic. Businesses aren't interested in raising money at such high interest rates either, so even though corporate credit ratings will be hurt, it won't change their plans. The fourth reason that bankruptcies are booming is because companies have learned to contain their operations within layers upon layers of holding companies and trusts. Go and watch my latest video on Rupert Murdoch to see how he mastered this strategy to keep his fortune completely safe while running a business empire based on pushing the limits of sensationalism. And to get these videos a day early without ads, sign up to my totally free email newsletter Compounded Daily to keep on learning how money works.